Senior Bowl week is officially in the books from Mobile, Alabama, and today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be breaking down my takeaways from Senior Bowl practices as well as the game, letting you guys know all the top players at the positions of need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm also going to let you know which players' stock might be falling a little bit here after a tough week in Mobile. But before we get into that, make sure you guys stick around to the end of today's video because I got some Shrine Bowl standouts as well, some potential sleepers that you should be keeping your eye out here as a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And before we get into today's Senior Bowl takeaways, send me to Indianapolis. Send me to the NFL Combine. My bosses told me that if we get 1,000 new subscribers on the channel this week, then they'll send me to Indianapolis to cover the NFL Combine for you guys. So if you want to see me in Indianapolis interviewing the players, doing all these different things and getting you content exclusive from the NFL Combine, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and let's get this NFL draft season off on the right foot. So now let's start with the key positions here that we're going to be talking about. And listen, the Senior Bowl is very much about a one-on-one kind of environment. So the one-on-one type of positions, right? Cornerback, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line. Those are the positions that really matter the most when it comes to the Senior Bowl in terms of practice. And then, you can incorporate safety and inside linebacker and all these different positions during the game, but really during practices, it's all about the one-on-ones between the wide receivers and the cornerbacks, the tight ends and the safeties, and then also the offensive line versus the defensive line. We'll also talk about quarterbacks today. These are the key positions to watch out for if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan here when it comes to the Senior Bowl. So let's start with the quarterbacks here. And of course, Kenny Pickett might be coming back here. It looks like he's going to be the starter for this team moving forward. Who knows, maybe they get a quarterback like in a Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields. We'll have to wait and see on that. But when it comes to the quarterback position, it was a pretty disappointing week in general, but I thought the quarterback that looked the best throughout the week was Senior Bowl MVP Spencer Rattler out of the University of South Carolina. Man, his throwing mechanics are super clean. It led to a lot of really good accuracy throughout the week. You can tell he's used to the bigger football already, and you can tell that he's doing a really, really good job this week. He threw a nice touchdown pass in the game itself, and throughout the week, I thought he was probably the most consistent. Right now, Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the 101st overall prospect, so that's just at the top of the fourth round after a nice week in Mobile, and I think he's going to have a really good NFL Combine because this guy's got all the arm talent you look for in the world. I think he's going to be a day 2 pick when it's all said and done. But let's say he drops to the fourth round, and the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting there at 119 has him in their sights, and you have Kenny Pickett at that point. You probably bring in a veteran quarterback, whether that's Mason Rudolph, Ryan Tannehill, or somebody else. Do you take a shot there on somebody that's uber talented, like Spencer Rattler, somebody that has the physical talent to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League? Remember, a couple of years back, this guy was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick, and I believe the 2022 NFL draft. And of course, he's fallen down since then with decision-making issues and maturity issues throughout his time there in Oklahoma and in South Carolina. But, I mean, at the end of the day, this guy's got the talent, and a fourth-round pick for a guy like this, a potential starter in this league. If Kenny Pickett and a veteran is here in Pittsburgh, I would definitely take a shot on Spencer Rattler. Now, in terms of the other quarterbacks, I thought some guys that had decent weeks, Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, didn't necessarily light it up like he really needed to, but I still have a first-round grade on him. So overall, didn't play in the game. I think that his stock didn't go up or down too much. Bo Nix had a really, really tough first day. But he definitely got better as the week went on. Overall, I didn't think he showed what he really needed to show to be considered one of the top QB prospects in this draft. I have a second-round grade on Bo Nix, and I thought he really needed to have a strong performance in Mobile to raise that to a first-round grade. That didn't happen. So, I mean, he had an okay week. But overall, not great for Bo Nix. And then Michael Pratt had a good week of practice, didn't play all too well in the game. So I thought Michael Pratt was going to be somebody that kind of establishes himself as like a true second-round option with a good week there in Mobile. That didn't really surface for me. I still think he's more of like a late third round, maybe early day 3 type of quarterback at this point. And then the guys that just had straight-up bad weeks, Joe Milton. I mean, goodness gracious, this brother stinks. I mean, this guy's got a howitzer of an arm. He's athletic as all get out, but man, he's a terrible decision maker. He's not accurate whatsoever, and he had 2 picks in the game. Just not a good week for Joe Milton at all. Same thing with Sam Hartman. who had a hard time completing passes. And if you're having a hard time completing passes in the freaking Senior Bowl when you're playing the most vanilla coverages out there, that's definitely concerning if you're a quarterback. And then Carter Bradley is kind of just somebody that got thrown in there. He's not really good at all. Didn't have a great week either. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, should the Steelers draft a quarterback this year, whether it be in the first round, day 2, day 3, late rounds? Let me know down there in the comment section, do you think Pittsburgh at some point should draft a quarterback in the 2024 NFL draft? Give me a yes or a no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or no down there in the comment section. So now let's move on to cornerback, because in my opinion, man, you have to get another corner to put on the other side of Joey Porter Jr. Now, whether you go out and get somebody in free agency like a L'Jarius Sneed, or you spend an early draft pick to get a bona fide starter for the future to pair with Joey Porter Jr. in the long term, I think that's something the Steelers absolutely need to do. And the two big winners at the cornerback position this week, or last week, I should say, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo was definitely the best cornerback present. He was arguably the best player present at practice last week. He was absolutely sticky in press man coverage, which was really the one question that he needed to answer off of his film there in Toledo. On film, man, this guy looks a lot like Devin Witherspoon to me, man. He's not quite as physical as Witherspoon was last year at Illinois. But, man, this guy's got the recovery speed. He's got a bunch of comfortability with route squeeze, all these different things. He's not grabby at all. I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be that fast riser in this cornerback class. And then Jarvis Brownlee Jr., probably the biggest riser throughout the week. Pro Football Focus didn't even have this guy ranked on their top 270 prospects. But he had a fantastic week, had a couple of really nice anticipatory interceptions in practice, and he also had a really good performance in the game as well. So Jarvis Brownlee Jr., absolutely somebody you should keep your eye on, maybe as like a late round kind of guy. Then somebody that just did not have a good week, unfortunately, for you Penn State Nittany Lions fans out there, was Kalen King, who's currently ranked as the 68th overall prospect by Pro Football Focus, and he arguably had the worst week of pretty much any corner there in Mobile last week. And people were saying that this guy, Kalen King, was going to be a better prospect than Joey Porter Jr., who is budding into a superstar cornerback in the National Football League. People are like, just wait till Kalen King comes next year. His tape from last season, not very good, and then he went into Mobile, and he got beat all the time. I mean, he maybe won 10% of his one-on-one reps. That's just straight up awful, and Kalen King, I think, is going to be sinking like a rock here as we approach the big day in Detroit. Now, coming up here, we're going to be talking the big boys up front, the offensive line. The Steelers need a center, and they need an offensive tackle. I'm going to let you know my winners and losers along the offensive line here in just a second. But first, if you're thinking about getting tickets to the big game in Vegas this week, then use today's sponsor, Game Time, to help make getting those expensive tickets just a bit easier. For all of our listeners, if you use the code VEGAS100, one word, all caps, on the Game Time app, you'll get $100 off to help get your butt to Allegiant Stadium on February 11th, this Sunday, to watch the NFC and AFC champions, the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, duke it out for the Lombardi Trophy in the biggest game of the year. Not only is Game Time offering that $100 off to the big game, but they are also the fastest growing ticketing app in the country. Game Time boasts a lowest price guarantee on all tickets to any event, so it's the only ticketing app that you need on your phone. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through that pesky email to get your tickets. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code SteelersChat, one word, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SteelersChat for $20 off, and then also make sure you use code VEGAS100 to get $100 off your ticket to the big game on Sunday. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So let's start with Tyler Guyton. And listen, man, when he measured in, 6'7", good weight, athletic as all get out, man. Daniel Jeremiah and a bunch of the NFL draft media immediately called him a winner of the week because this guy probably moves better than any offensive lineman in the draft, period. Plus, he's got massive arms. He's got long arms. He's got a massive frame. And people are just like, this guy's automatically a winner. But if you watch the Senior Bowl practice tape like I did this weekend, This guy had a terrible week in the one-on-ones. He got beat time and time and time again, and not just like good, not just like he held his own. Like, he got embarrassed by a number of these edge rushers, and just because he was moving well, and he's got long arms, and he's really big, Daniel Jeremiah and a lot of these other draft analysts are like, this guy had an awesome week, and people have been gassing him up, but I really just don't think he had that good of a week. Like, obviously, when you're 6'7", when you got the long arms like he has, when you're as strong as this cat is, I mean, of course he's going to get first-round hype, but Daniel Jeremiah was saying stuff like, this guy should go in the top 15 in one of the deepest tackle classes in recent memory. There's no way this guy should go that high, in my opinion. And, maybe second round for the Steelers, you can consider taking a guy like Tyler Guyton, who has all the physical tools that you look for, but is very raw. But top 15, first-round pick, spend your first-round pick on this guy, I think there's no way you go out and get Tyler Guyton. Another guy with good physical measurements, but just didn't have a really great week in the one-on-ones was Patrick Paul out of Houston. Another guy getting some first-round hype around the National Football League. He has really long arms, huge frame, not quite as good of an athlete as Tyler Guyton, but he was another guy that had a rough week. He was constantly losing. He uses those long arms, and he likes to bear hug people. He doesn't get inside people's pads, and there's still a lot of work to be done with Patrick Paul, in my opinion. Now for the guys that I thought had really good weeks, Talise Fuaga, right tackle out of Oregon State. Pass blocking was hit or miss, but, I mean, the run blocking is fantastic. Jordan Morgan also had a very solid week. I'm not going to say that he was like a huge riser or anything like that. He did lose certain reps, but he's very solid. Christian Jones out of Texas maybe had the best week out of anybody at the Senior Bowl at the position this week. I was very impressed with Christian Jones. I think he may rise up some boards here. And then another guy that was impressive to me as well, for somebody that ranks so low on the Pro Football Focus big board, was Roger Rosengarten, the other tackle from Washington. We all know Troy Fotano, the left tackle there in Washington. He might go round one, but Rosengarten really held his own from the right side of the formation this week. Really excited about his potential future, and he could be a potential sleeper for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they want to get a tackle on day 3. Now, the big winners at the offensive center position, of course, we know we need to get a replacement for Mason Cole because he stinks. Jackson Powers-Johnson is the perfect fit for Arthur Smith's offense. In this kind of wide zone run scheme, you need a center that's able to move and move blockers, okay? Jackson Powers-Johnson has the athleticism. He's got the strength. He's got the technique. He had an absolutely fantastic week. He was the talk of Mobile, and he's going to be an absolutely fantastic prospect to consider if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then another guy that got put on a poster by Tavondre Sweat on one of the one-on-ones, but overall had a really, really good week was Bo Limmer out of the University of Arkansas. Comparing him to Ricky Stromberg, who came out last year, I think Bo Limmer is way better than Stromberg was, and right now Pro Football Focus has him ranked at 123rd. That would be an excellent backup option if Jackson Powers-Johnson goes early and Cedric Van Pran goes early as well. Now, you be the GM down there in the comment section. Would you draft Jackson Powers-Johnson in round 1? Pick number 20 overall if you're the GM, Omar Khan. Type D if you would draft him, or type P if you're going to pass on. Now let's get to the wide receivers here because, listen, man, I'm looking at this situation right now with Deontay Johnson. He's not a great fit for the offense, so he might get traded this offseason. And even if they decide to keep Deontay Johnson, he's on the last year of his contract. I don't necessarily see them extending his contract this offseason, so you need to plan for the future regardless. You take a look at the Steelers wide receiver depth chart right now. George Pickens is really the only guy that I feel like super 100% about right here. Allen Robinson's going to get cut. Calvin Austin III maybe is a gadget-type player here moving forward, but Deontay Johnson, man, might not be the best fit for this offense with Arthur Smith that really tries to value bigger receivers that can help block in the run game, not necessarily a strength of Deontay Johnson's. So let's talk about the top performers at the wide receiver position. And for me, my number one guy this week was Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. I'm not kidding you when I say this. I think that the minute Ladd McConkey gets drafted by an NFL team, he's going to be a top 15, maybe even a top 10 route runner in the National Football League. He is that good. He was running double whip routes at Senior Bowl practice, absolutely cooking these cornerbacks. He was fantastic. He's going to be a first-round wide receiver, but I don't really think he's going to be a Steeler. Then you got Jamari Thrash out of Louisville, really a 6'1", kind of a bigger receiver. Good job from Jamari this week as a route runner, really established himself as one of the good day 2 options at the wide receiver position. Roman Wilson, somebody that was kind of seen more as just like a speed guy coming into the week, absolutely cooked people with his route running, was absolutely fantastic, and he didn't drop a ball the entire week. So he's got the hands, he's got the route running, he's got the full package. Now he is a little bit smaller, might have to play in the slot. And then Ricky Pearsall from the University of Florida, really, really good week as well, man. And he was probably, outside of Ladd McConkey, probably the best in terms of route running all week. He was cooking people, and he's going to be another one of those guys that goes pretty early on day 2 of the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, the guys that I thought had good weeks, Xavier Legette, the measurements didn't really go Xavier's way. He was 6'1". He was measured at 6'1" when he was measured at 6'3" at South Carolina. So I think we can throw out the DK Metcalf comparisons out the door, but he is rocked up. He's really fast. I thought he had a good week. Then Corley Malachi, somebody that calls himself the Yak God. People compare him to Deebo Samuel. He was voted team MVP of practice last week. And then Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane, not listed by Pro Football Focus, but was one of the more clean receivers throughout the week of practice. And then the one big loser at wide receiver was Tez Walker out of North Carolina. And right now, he is ranked as the 35th overall prospect by Pro Football Focus, and I have no idea why. This guy should be a day 3 prospect at best, all right? Screw the first-round hype that he's been getting. He was arguably the worst wide receiver in Mobile this year. He was terrible. He was dropping passes that were wide open, thrown right to him. His route running, he wasn't able to separate very well. He didn't have a good performance in the game. I think Drake May, having him as his quarterback, definitely inflated his stock here, and I do not think Tez Walker is the guy that you want to be as your number 1 receiver and your number 1 pick moving forward. Now, coming up next, my Shrine Bowl standouts here. I got 4 players from the Shrine Bowl here in Frisco, Texas from last week that I think you should be keeping your eye on as a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, man, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you're enjoying today's content and you want more draft content as we get closer to the NFL Combine here in a couple of weeks. Then we get to my Shrine Bowl standouts here, starting with Malik Washington, who, in my opinion, might be the steal of the draft for whoever gets him. He's smaller. He's probably a slot guy, but, man, he is strong. He is one of the best in terms of yards after the catch in college football. This guy was the number 3 overall graded wide receiver in college football last year, and he's got great hands. He's a great route runner. He was absolutely toasting people and at the Shrine Bowl practices this week, and he reminded me a lot of Zay Flowers when he was at Shrine Bowl practices in 2023. So really like Malik Washington, got to keep your eye on him. Then we get to Renardo Green, a press man corner from Florida State University. This guy played almost exclusively press man coverage there at Florida State last year, and he was one of the best corners in college football. He was fantastic. Steelers could probably get him in round 2, so if you can't get a corner in round 1, this guy would be a great option in round 2. Then somebody that wasn't even ranked, completely off the radar, Garrett Greenfield, left tackle from South Dakota State. I mean, this guy's got a massive frame, long arms. He's got great production there at South Dakota State. Now he's going to be put down the list a little bit because of the level of competition he was going up against. But, man, this guy's got all the physical tools, and he's got the technique that you look for. His tape is super clean, and I think he's going to be a steal for somebody in this year's draft class. Then you get Talia Tagovailoa, and in the game itself, Tua's brother here just looked like he was playing at a different speed than everybody else on the field. He was getting outside the pocket. He was throwing off platform. I like to say that he's kind of like Bryce Young light, where he's not quite as strong of an arm. He's not quite as good of a playmaker. He's not quite as intelligent in terms of mental processing, but he's got a similar skill set. Smaller quarterback that has good pocket presence, is a good playmaker outside of the pocket, and can throw from his hip whenever he needs to. Really got a quick draw there with that quick release. Really think Talia Tagovailoa would be a steal in round 5 if the Steelers wanted to go get a quarterback. So now shout out your guy down there in the comment section. Who's an NFL draft prospect that's being slept on right now? Who's your sleeper? Let me know down there in the comment section who you think I should be keeping my eye on here during the 2024 NFL draft process. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for wall-to-wall Steelers draft coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. Again, if you click that subscribe button, I might be sent to Indianapolis to the NFL Combine, so make sure you click that subscribe button right now for the best and most in-depth Steelers draft coverage here on YouTube for the 2024 NFL Draft.